welcome to a release party for Alpha.11 of LibreTime. Kind of a mix of that, a bit of a test session. I want to go through and do some demonstration of how things should be tested, or how I do testing of LibreTime. So if you want to maybe find a bit more instruction on how to do that outside of what's in the docs, I'm going to kind of walk through that. So hopefully this can serve as a reference for later. But yeah, welcome. If you want to join us, the link and topic is on discourse. Otherwise, you're welcome to join us on YouTube. I'll be monitoring the chat there, as well as chat.libretime.org, our Mattermost instance. You're welcome to add your point of view there. So yeah, keeping an eye on a variety of those rooms. Most of the release preparation discussions happened in the developers channel on chat.libretime.org, as well as in the GitHub issues, as kind of they've been happening. Right, so I think maybe let's just walk through some of the ones that have been recently, most recently kind of merged. There's some stuff that we've merged in the last about couple hours, just kind of getting stuff in, getting stuff running, and getting all that running. So yeah, we've got a couple of CI stuff. We fixed a couple of bugs in the installer that we found so far. And I'm seeing that my screen is horribly stretched, so I'll try to fix that in the background. So yeah, the kind of what's there at the moment. There was a couple of updates in terms of what we put in for the CI. Some dependencies got updated and kind of things like that. So yeah, welcome and thanks for joining us. Let me just fix how this layout works. We want to be able to see what we're doing. Right, so there we go. And just bring that into there as well. Cool, so hopefully that's looking a bit better. Right, so yeah, the layout that we're looking for is kind of there-ish. I see YouTube still not happy, so let me fix this a bit more. We can drop again. Cool. Okay. So I'll leave it at that, and we can just kind of handle it like that. Okay. So welcome. As I was saying, we've landed some bug fixes to how we handle the installer. There's some kind of things that we've had to fix in the last little while, as well as some CI and dependency changes. Dependent bots has been quite handy. But if we have a look at our Alpha.11 upgrade, or release notes, so this is kind of where what I'm going to be basing much of today's session on. So yeah, we're looking at the LibreTime release, what kind of has been happening, what is going to happen, some of the breaking changes. So I'll just maybe go over some of the upgrade notes to begin with, and then we'll dive into testing both as kind of the upgrade process as well as clean installs. So we'll start with a clean install. Do that using Vagrant on Ubuntu Focal. We have tested all 4 of our supported release platforms, but I want to just go through one on stream to kind of demonstrate how that works. And then I'll do 2 upgrade tests from Alpha 10 to Alpha 11 on the 2 supported systems that are there, Debian Buster and Ubuntu Bionic. Then we just need to make sure any of the last updates to the release notes are in before we can click the button and hopefully release. So yeah, I guess let's get started. There's quite a few breaking changes in Alpha 11. Some aren't necessarily user-facing for most of the time. Things like the certificate validation, the new command line interfaces for the various applications. But there are 2 or 3 that are quite important that need to be adhered to for all upgrades. The biggest being there's a new configuration schema and validation. So the etc airtime.conf file has got new defaults. We've deprecated and removed some of the unused fields and improved our validation around that. So as part of that, there are some renames and some changes there. The general section has some changes that need applying. The database has changes. RabbitMQ has defaults that can be removed if you're not using any like custom settings there. The Pipo setting has been changed and renamed, so that's kind of a big one. And the Monitor and Facebook sections that are only kind of unused have been removed. So you can remove them from the config file, and the LDAP can be removed if you're not actually using it. One thing about the validation that's important that should note is numbers or values like integers that are in the config file should not be quoted, because otherwise they'll be treated as strings and the validation will fail. So, for example, what was ls port equals 1234 as a quoted value should now be liquid soap equals 1234 as a straight integer and not to be quoted. Environment variables aren't really applicable to most, but can be something of note, as well as the log files have new paths. Something to note about the log files: so they've moved from varlog airtime to varlog LibreTime, and the Pipo logs have been renamed to playout. So they're all just kind of straight there. There's not much that's actually changed in their contents, but yeah, liquid soap, Pipo liquid soap has been merged into the liquid soap. Has been moved to the liquid soap log, and kind of things have been renamed to make it a bit more clear as to what's happening and what is kind of to be expected. So before running the install script for the upgrade, make sure that you create the new directory, you set the permissions correctly, and you can remove the old one if you're not using it. The new services have new working directories. So especially those running it using systemd, which is the majority of installs, you can remove vartemp airtime Pipo after running the install to remove the old stuff. You also no longer need ffmpeg or Cylon or Argain3. They've all been replaced with ffmpeg. You now need ffmpeg, not Cylon or Argain3. So you can remove those packages that were introduced as part of the dependencies on Cylon or Argain3, and the installer will install ffmpeg as part of its upgrade process. Then any kind of other upgrade note is the API no longer uses static files on production. It only uses it in development, so you can remove user share airtime API directory. It's no longer used and just kind of taking up extra space. So you're welcome to remove that and kind of just go ahead. It'll create any other directories and stuff that it needs during the installer. All right, maybe we should dive into some of the known issues. The only known issue at the moment is that the playout status notifications in Ubuntu 18.04 are broken. The issue is tracked in issue number 1606, which will be linked in the release notes. The playout works correctly. You can hear it on Icecast. It goes out on air. However, the on-air button is grayed out, and the status reporting, when you click on the streams settings page, can show a error connecting to Liquid Soap. We're not sure why yet. We're still debugging that process. The current workaround, if you need the status reporting back in the UI, is to upgrade to 2004. That is supported, it works, and there is no known playout status issue with 2004. All right, so that's pretty much the changes. Obviously, whenever you're upgrading, please make sure you go through everything. Be careful about what the upgrade is going to do. Read through the release notes before upgrading, and make sure that you make sufficient backups and contingency plans so that if things go wrong, you can restart and go ahead without loss in production or downtime in production. So I would recommend setting up a new server, testing the upgrade, making sure that it works, or even setting up a new server, and then migrating the data across to the new system. That's not what I want. I want that. So yeah, I think let's maybe dive into testing. I'm going to be using Vagrant. The docs on how to install and manage Vagrant are on LibreTime.org. So if you have a look at our docs, there is a section on how to install and set up Vagrant. So I'm not going to walk through that. However, I will walk through what to do once you have Vagrant installed. Right. So if we have a look at I'm just kind of in the root of the Vagrant, the LibreTime repo. We are testing on Ubuntu Focal, which is Ubuntu 2004. So Vagrant up Ubuntu Focal will give you a system that will run, or it'll set up a system for you that will be installed with LibreTime, get it set up with the existing version that's kind of on master or on main, or whatever kind of your point on in the Git tree is. It'll take it from those files and set it up. I'm using KVM as the backend, libvirt. So that's what's going to be running it. By default, it uses what does it use? VirtualBox. And so that's kind of what is used there by default. But you can adjust it to use libvirt instead. And the docs on how to do that are on LibreTime.org in all the Vagrant docs. So this will take a while. It goes ahead and installs all the packages and gets that set up. It is faster on sequential runs. It should use, or it does use apt cacher if you've got it installed to proxy those connections to a local apt cache. Apt cacher ng is the Ubuntu and Debian package name, so it'll download it once and then cache it so that you've got it for future use, so that you don't have to re-download all the packages every time. While this kind of installs, is there anyone with any questions or comments? You're welcome to post them in the LibreTime Mattermost chat or on the YouTube channel, or the YouTube live stream chat. I'm monitoring both of those and the discourse post for the Alpha release party if anyone's wanting to make a comment there. I'm just trying to think in terms of interesting features for this release. This release introduces support for Ubuntu 20.04 and Debian Bullseye. So both of those distros are supported and working, fully supported in Alpha.11. We also added support for PHP 7.4 and refactored how our Python apps work. So all of our Python apps now depend on a shared library that centralizes the config for most of the logging, the config file, and commonly used functions. So all of those are used by the various Python libraries or Python applications. The Python applications have also been renamed and moved so that they're a bit more present and easy to find within the system. What else? There was one security issue that was fixed, and that will be included in this release. However, so the security issue was, I'm not going to go into full details, but the issue will be, it is embargoed until the release, so it's kind of sitting, I won't go into the specifics of it, but it would require the attacker to have the authenticated access to the API for them to be able to make use of it. Then what else? We fixed lots of bugs, tried to get things a bit more reliable. The API client is the V2 API client is a bit more feature compatible with the V1, and generating the same sort of output as V1 was expecting for playouts, schedule formatting. There were also very many dependency updates. A lot of our dependencies have been updated to use more recent versions, and yeah, that's kind of the large changes there. Anything else? I would like to give a shout out to Jula, who has been doing a lot of the development work. In fact, the majority of the code that's landing in this release is theirs. So I'd like to say a big thank you to them. Because without them, this release would be a lot smaller and a lot later, not supporting nearly as much or being as nearly as clean and kind of dry as it is. I wonder if there's anything else that we can go through while this waits. There's if there's any questions, by all means. Otherwise, maybe we can talk about some of the docs and highlight things where we need help. So LibreTime is an open source software, or is open source software, and does need people's help, not just in terms of code, but also in terms of documentation, artwork, testing, usage, kind of bug reports, all that sort of thing is helpful. You don't have to know how to code to be able to help with how LibreTime is run. So the main thing that needs to be worked on at the moment is our documentation. So we do have documentation about a lot of things, and Zach and Jula have spent a lot of time getting things looking nice and working well. So big thanks to them. So this new docs layout is thanks to them. So the administrator manual kind of lays out how to install and how to manage a LibreTime install, whereas the user manual is how to use LibreTime, and there's some work here that's needed about highlighting what the important things are in the top level web page, but there are all the other docs that used to be in the system still there underneath, so all the user stuff is still supported. And then the developer manual is how to set up a development environment. The vagrant stuff that I was talking about earlier is here, as well as multipass if you're using that. There's docs on how to use the LibreTime API and widgets. So all of that is there. But this still needs help. This still needs work. We still need to go through and work on how to use it. We need to document how the Ansible roles work, because they are working Ansible roles for LibreTime. And kind of all of this needs work. So if you do have any interest in developing these docs, please, by all means, come chat to us. It's all written in Markdown, so it's fairly straightforward to learn and to use. So please do that. In fact, this is all docs, and you can see it's fairly straightforward on how the formatting works, how things go about doing it, and what things look like. And all of that then gets formatted and ends up looking like that. So yeah, if that's kind of that side of things. So that's all how that works. If you want to be able to, if you want to contribute or be a part of the development team working on us, please join us, chat to us, chat.libretime.org, or pick up an issue and just work on it. It's open source. It's more than welcoming to people. If you have any troubles, come chat to us. It's something that we can definitely help with, and we would like to see more developers get involved and more contributors get involved, just in terms of all sorts of systems and ways. Cool. So let's have a look back at our system. We are now installing the Python dependencies on our Python applications. So this should take not too long. It should be fairly quick. It's currently installing the API. It's installed the Celery background worker. It's installed the analyzer, the shared docs, and the shared kind of libraries, as well as the playout. So this should hopefully finish up and be ready to be tested shortly. Dun dun dun! Cool. So, bug fixing time. Okay, so it's trying to set permissions on our log files before it's created them. Yay! So, where's that? So we no longer use varlog airtime. This is varlog LibreTime. And this is a bug fix that we need to add. Well, so we do currently correctly make and assign permissions, but we don't want to turn that. We do want that as LibreTime. Cool. We use semantic commits, so it helps to be able to kind of work out what the changelog is, what the version number should be once we get to a stable semantic versioning. So we use, whether it's a fix or a feature or a chore or something like that, they're defined in the docs, and then what the scope is, whether that's the installer, the worker, the playout, the worker, the analyzer, whatever it is. Cool. So that's another fix that will need to be landed before we release tonight. The nice thing about Vagrant is we'll now just be able to run Vagrant up vocal and it'll stand it up again and have it work. Because the install was the thing that failed, didn't cache it. So unfortunately we need to run through all of that again. But that's how kind of that works. It may take a while, but unfortunately it's necessary. Welcome to debugging live on air. This is why demos should always be pre-recorded. Cool, so we get to install everything again, and this will take a while, so yes, we get to enjoy it. Something I do want to do is find a Creative Commons audio clip. So we've got some music to upload and test. Hey, even better, we found some public domain music. So we shall be using that to test our LibreTime instance today. Maybe we should listen to it now instead of sitting in silence waiting for me to kick things off. Oh, that won't really work. All good. So we get to sit and wait for things to install. If you have any questions, the chat is available. I'm monitoring both chat.libretime.org and the YouTube chat for this release. So Null asks what the upgrade process would be or is like. So there's two different ways of doing it. You can do an in-place upgrade, which would be to pull down the new version, read through and go through the changelog and do those changes, and then run install with the same flags as your initial install. So that's the one way of doing it. That's what I've tested and what works. Make sure that you've got backups just in case things go badly. Or you can do a straight reinstall on a new machine and change things that way if you wish. Other maintainers generally will, some of the other maintainers will create a new box, a new machine, reinstall from scratch there, just downloading the new release tarball and running install, then transferring over the data from the database and serve airtime, for example, the media store. And then once they've confirmed that everything is working on the new machine, replace the old one with the new one, and then just have it work like that. So you can do either approach, both should work, and both are supported. But in either case, make sure that you have a backup so that if things go wrong, your production outage is as small as possible. I see there's another change that needs making here. Dimp airtime is no longer used. That should also be removed. I see, well, my Jitsi has decided that I do not have sufficient bandwidth to show my video, which is a bit annoying. So you can't actually see what the process is here, but it's coming along. They're processing triggers, so the post installs are running, and we're installing Git. Let me try actually share my screen. and the install is done. So let us, I'm just going to try get my screen back. Otherwise, actually, you know what? I'm going to change how we're streaming this. So give me 5 seconds, I'll be back. Right, so that's not working, so I'm just going to stream like this. There we go. Welcome back. Apologies for being unable to see there, but so things are now done and working. I'm actually not going to do that, so that we just have the changes that we've tested. Cool. So basic setup is done. Everything's working there. So now we need to run through the setup and kind of go through. This is the same as what you would see going to anything that you, or any setup that you run. The only interesting part is the domain and the IP address that we're going to, and we're going to 192.168.10.100 on port 8080. So that'll do that, and kind of see, you'll be able to see there what that is. So that's kind of where we'll go through, and there's no sort of settings here that we need to really care about. We can leave them all as default because we're not testing, that's not what we're testing. Or rather, we've got lots of testing, so we don't really need to worry about what that kind of looks like. So, sorry, let me just fix this here quickly. Actually, just clear them. Okay, so we're just going to go next. Let that create. Cool. Next. And it can successfully connect to everything, and we just hit next. Next. Cool. So it's telling us to restart everything, so we go back to the terminal, vagrant SSH Ubuntu focal will get us there. What that'll do is it'll allow us access to the guest virtual machine, and from here we have sudo access. So sudo systemctl restart LibreTime dash analyzer celery API playout liquid soap. I missed anything there. 245. And then that will do the restart, and we can go back to our browser and click done. So it's saying that celery failed to start. Okay, cool. So that is an issue. So let us go back to celery and work out what is going on there. So let's have a look here. That's not what we need. Okay, so journal CTL LibreTime dash celery. So it's unable to access var log LibreTime worker LibreTime log path. So it's not correctly reading the log path. Okay, that's fine. So this is also a fairly new one that we this is the service. This log file is probably long, so we need to have a look and see how we did it for the others. So analyzer, systemd, installer, systemd. So it should actually pick it up. Because we're running through Celery, it's slightly different. So systemd. Okay, so this actually should have spaces around it. So what we can do now is just yay, etsy systemd system LibreTime dash Celery, just to make sure that this works. Okay, what is going on here? This is what happens when you try land changes in late. I'm actually going to look at how did we do this. Right, there was a question about can the playout system be hosted on a local machine and not the cloud? Of course, it's streaming to an IceCast server. So wherever that IceCast server is, provided you can access it, it'll just work. And then you can handle that IceCast output however you want, whether that be a local machine or in the cloud. If you're asking about like playouts in terms of to a audio device instead of IceCast, that isn't supported. However, you can kind of do it to IceCast, then use something like Dark Ice or some other way of listening to the output from IceCast and then playing that out to your local machine. Okay, turns out we can't use log file like this. We need to add that support into our worker, so we're going to drop that celery like that, and I'm just going to do it in here for sake of, well, actually no, I'll show you how to do things like this. So if there are changes that don't reflect automatically, you can force them by the provision to focal. What that'll do is rerun the install script. Because everything's installed, it'll be a lot faster, and then install everything that is there into our existing system. So we're just waiting for this to update. Run through the installer. Oh, because I'm no longer on that branch. So while we add it, let's just merge in those changes. Squash and merge. Main. All those changes. And provision. Probably what we want here actually is log file log LibreTime worker.log. But I'd rather not mess with that at the moment. Kind of just leave it as is. Revert the change that we added, but it'll still. Why are you still trying to read that? Right. That's fix is still needed, so we need to drop that. So add install. Cool, so we've added those fixes, so we can now just vacant provision and keep testing this. Okay. How's this doing? Cool, so as you can see, when you rerun things, once the packages are already installed, things take a lot quicker. It's just finalizing and make sure everything works and everything's done. Woohoo! So now if we go Vagrant sh.focal, now let's just restart everything. Celery, good soap, layout. Cool. So now that those are restarted, we can refresh our checklist and everything's green. Yay, which means everything is running. It doesn't necessarily mean everything works. So let's log in. Admin. And we can step through. So first things first, we need to upload a file, and we're going to use the Ain't We Got Fun by Billy Jones because it's public domain, and so YouTube doesn't take me down. Right, so let's create a show. We're just going to call it test. One interesting thing to note is if your PC is not in UTC, you will need to set in the future you can't use now because of a bug in how the validation of this form works. So we want this to start next minute, and we click add show. Now we schedule tracks. We're just going to schedule the one. We can schedule it twice. Test that scheduling works. You'll see it's going to start next. It's going to run next in about 20 seconds. So we can have a look at the IceCast output by having a look at the mount point here, and I'm wondering whether I can capture the output. Yes, I can. So I want the output of that. Okay. Cool. So now if we hit play, there's music playing. I'll just turn it down. So that's running, and that means that playout is working. It's been going for a while. Generally you'll find if errors occur it will be very, very quick after the playout, so I generally try to play a song or two and let it run so that it just kind of works. So yeah, and that's pretty much how testing works. That's how that works for things like this. It all just kind of lies there. And yeah, we test it. We run through Vagrant like that. Once you're done, you can run Vagrant destroy, go to focal, and that will delete the server or the virtual machine and just kind of have it clean up after itself. You can also run halt, which will just stop it, it won't kill it. But yeah, that's kind of how we do things like that. And it'll clean itself up, but it's all not, you don't have to worry about doing anything with your own system. There's no messing around with your dependencies or your system's kind of install scripts or anything like that. It kind of just works as is like that. So yeah, that's effectively that. Unfortunately, I've kind of run out of time. I wanted to do the upgrade or demo the upgrade tests, but I've run out of time for that. So what I'm going to do is keep prattling on for a bit, wait for the tests to complete on the 2 fixes I've just put up, and then we can release. So let's have a look at the release notes and see if there's anything there that we want to fix, or do I have the change log? I don't. Fetch. What is Alpha.11? Okay, so let's have a look at the docs. Releases Alpha.11. Cool. So there's not much more. We've documented the known issues. We've fixed the other bugs that we've introduced. There's nothing major. There's a spelling error, so let's just fix that. And yeah, I think that's pretty much good to go. Let's wait for, I need to merge this first. So we're just waiting for the tests to finish and for that to be merged so that we can run that. So where's the change log? The change log currently is in this pull request 1620. It will be on the website and in the GitHub release once the release has happened. So it'll both be there, but for the moment, if you have a look at the files changed in the mature release of 3 Alpha 11, all the changelog is there. And if you view the file itself instead of the diff, GitHub will render that quite nicely for you. Right, so that has now been merged. So the release issues have been fixed. And we can now release Alpha 11. I just want to see if there's anything here. So we're going to squash this. So we've updated the release notes. We've tested. The last to-do list there will be done once this has been released. So there's 2 steps that we need to do. One is to squash and merge this. So that'll squash it down and make sure that Just want to see what this commit was. Yeah. Cool. So we can squash and merge this. Woohoo! So this is now merged, which means the release notes and everything will be available on the system or on the website in a few moments. Otherwise you can have a look at stuff, and I just need to main upstream main. Cool. So to release this actually is required. I think I need to have a look at workflows, release, see what this is. Okay, so I push a tag. Cool. So what I will do is push that tag, get tag 3.0.0-alpha.11. Woohoo! And we are tagged. So let's push it. Push upstream main tags. Delete Ubuntu 3.0.0-alpha.9. I'll make to delete it on the UI. Yeah, well, cool. So if we have a look at LibreTime, let me just delete the tags. Just stop the tag for that one. Cancel. Right, so let's have a look at LibreTime. Releases. Okay, we're deleting 9.9. So just had no intention of run. So let's have a look at our actions. The release failed. Okay. So it's trying to create the release using the release .md notes. It should be using workflows release. Docs. Let's have a look where it is. So there's docs, releases, Alpha.11. There. Cool. Now we get status git add tag Alpha.11. Delete those two tags. Tags. What delete tags on GitHub? There. Delete the tag 10, delete that tag. CI use release nodes. And that should be a we should have a better way of doing that, but that for the moment is how we're going to handle that. I will file an issue to make that better and less of a potentially manual task, but that's for Alpha.12. So now let's have a look at our actions. Webcam. Okay, so we want the release. It's running. Maybe let's just go over some of the interesting things that we are working for Alpha.12. We are working on Docker support, so that should hopefully be done soon, getting that support in and running. We are also working on some restructuring and refactoring of the services, combining some of those and making it a bit easier to handle them. There's a rework of the the system of watch folders. There is a bulk importer thing that is available in Alpha.11, so it'll do a bulk import of files, but yeah, there's some more work on that. We're moving the legacy migrations or the database migrations into Django so that that's a bit easier to handle and use. We are also replacing some of our old dependencies, cleaning up the installer, and anything else that's interesting here. Starting work on a new UI so that we have a more reactive and more up-to-date UI that isn't depending on ancient PHP libraries that are no longer supported anywhere. So yeah, that is Alpha.11 released. Thank you very much for joining us. So if we have a look at releases, we have a Alpha.11 release. And I'll probably just edit this file to clean it up a bit and click release so that it's all there and correct. Thanks very much for joining me, and I shall see you next time. So long, and we'll see you. There's a community meetup next month on the 17th or so. Have a look at, keep an eye on Discourse for that support. Thanks a lot. Cheers.